Welcome to Predator Radio, your exclusive podcast channel for everything predator hunting related. Predator Radio is brought to us today by our sponsor, Predator Precision. Predator Precision offers a full line of thermal and night vision optics, as well as thermal accessories. Check them out on the web at www.predatorprecision.com. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Predator Radio. For today's episode, we have Colt Minton on the line. Colt, you with us?
I'm with you, man.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it. So the reason I wanted to bring you on, Colt, is I wanted to do an episode on tournaments and preparing for tournaments, what all goes into it, kind of for two reasons. One, I think a lot of people don't understand how a tournament works and how much kind of work goes into preparing for it. And then the other side of that coin is there's a lot of people that want to get into tournaments and I think don't really know what the first step is or how to go about it, and afraid they're not going to kind of get everything together. So first, can you kind of introduce yourself to everybody? Most of us that have been in this a while obviously know who you are. Your name is very prominent in the predator hunting community. But for the newer people, can you kind of introduce yourself, explain your background, and kind of how we all got to know you?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm Colt Minton, grew up in East Tennessee. Pretty much started predator hunting at a young age, just basically to help the farmers out. And nobody around here really done it. Everybody turkey hunted and deer hunted, but nobody really knew how to call coyotes. So it turned out just kind of something I done on my own, and it's grew to be pretty big and turned out to be fairly successful killing them.
You obviously got good at it. What part of Tennessee are you in? Eastern or western?
I'm actually in East Tennessee, just above Gatlinburg.
Okay. So you're not in the flat part, you're in the hills.
We've got a little bit of both. It's kind of a mix of both. Rolling hills, pretty much.
Okay. And then, so you obviously started when you were young, kind of worked your way up. How did you get, you're on with Thermal Optics Plus, which is a big name in the equipment arena, DNA Firearms, MFK Game Calls, which everybody knows who they are. How did you kind of get to where you are? I mean, obviously through success, but kind of walk us through how you got to where you are.
I actually met the MFK guys at NWTF in Nashville in 2014 or 15. Dave and Tori was leaned up on the counter, and Dave made some smart remark to my wife about how I needed to buy her a shirt or something. You know how Dave's always going on. But I got talking to the guys and bought a couple calls and really like them. I never really ran diaphragms for coyotes, and just got to talking to Tori back and forth, and it become a yearly thing, and went down and hunted with him several times. And Gage, my sons, went down, and Tori really took up with Gage. So we filmed several hunts and pretty much just fit in, man. And
that's awesome.
Everybody on MFK is just kind of like brothers. So it's worked out well.
That's awesome. And then I assume you run some gear from Thermal Optics Plus?
Yeah, Cameron. I've been with Cameron for going on 2.5 years now. Super good dude, man. I basically just met him through Facebook, and I always day hunted, which Tennessee, you're not even allowed to night hunt. So I always day hunted growing up, and talked to Cameron, and he said, man, if you'd like to start hunting some of these tournaments and start going out of town doing some stuff, I'd be interested in doing something with you. So we worked out something, and he's a really good dude too. He's took care of me. So
absolutely. Yeah. He's helped me out a bunch too.
Yeah.
Well, neat. So to back up a little bit before tournaments, I think I talked about in one of my previous episodes. I think there's a few different classifications for guys that predator hunt. I always kind of broke it down into the tournament hunter, the hobby hunter, and the farmer, and they all kind of
Right.
have their separate reasons. Focusing on the tournament hunter, I've only done a few tournaments myself. I did the Eastern this past year, and unfortunately, as it usually goes, weather didn't cooperate, same as the year before, at least here in Ohio.
Right.
But I think a lot of people are reluctant to get into tournaments because they think, man, I'm going to enter it, and I can't compete with the guys that are putting up big numbers and this and that. So I think one of the biggest things that helps is knowing how to prepare for the tournament. So I think one of the biggest, there's a bunch of hurdles, but one of the biggest hurdles is having enough ground. Can you kind of go through what you do to leading up to the tournament as far as like, for instance, the Eastern, and I started planning my stuff, my ground for that in October of the year before. And I probably went out once a
Right.
week lining up ground. And can you kind of get into I know we'll get into it later, but the numbers game, like, mathematical, how long you're staying at stands, how many, give an idea, people idea how many stands they need to line up when they're getting ground and how to go about getting ground.
The easiest way I can say is just get as much ground as you possibly can. And when you think you have enough, you need 2 times that.
Right.
I mean, it really does take a lot. And there's a lot of, a lot goes into getting it. We have some ground that we shoot pigs on for farmers that let us coyote hunt. We have some ground we pay money for. Some ground we own. It's just, there's several different ways. A lot of it's just driving and knocking on doors,
Right.
Just talking to people. It's you may go to 10 places and get a no at every one, and then the next 10 may be sure.
Yep. So for a tournament, say a person was entering a tournament for the first time, obviously preference would be to have fresh ground or ground that has not been called on a lot.
Right.
Say it's a 2-night tournament. How many stands would you suggest someone have lined up for a 2-night tournament?
We usually have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. How many stands you get to make, that it really depends on if you have, coyotes come in the first 30 seconds and you kill them. Right. You shoot one 500 yards across a field, takes an hour to get him. I mean, it's hard to put a number on stands, but I would probably say, 30 a night, maybe.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's
quite a bit.
That's what we tried. I was trying to rule of thumb. I always try to do hope for 4 an hour. And I know with drive time, setup, breakdown, that's pushing it. But I always tell people if you can plan on 4 stands an hour, you probably have enough. But that's 24 a night. That's 48 stands for a tournament. So
yeah.
But I think that gives people an idea of best case scenario, how much work it's going to take to line up 48 stands to get through 2 nights.
Right.
And you're probably not going to need it, especially if you have, bad weather or something. For me, I only got through maybe 20 of my stands for the Eastern, but then I had a whole bunch of good hunting land lined up for the month or 2 after that. But
right.
I was surprised how quick we burned through it.
We usually try to make our stands 10 to 12, 13 minutes during the tournaments. Okay. If they're not there in 13 minutes, we're gone. We've kind of got the more stands we make, the better off we are type mentality. Instead of spending 45 minutes on a stand to kill one coyote, we would rather make 3 stands. And have an opportunity at a double or triple or whatever. But
right, and that kind of brings up a good point. It really changes your hunting style too, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know how you hunt normally, but I try to spend 30 minutes on a stand when I'm hunting just for pleasure, but it seems like these tournaments are, for me, being kind of newer to tournament, kind of stressful. Like it's a rat race
It
against the clock.
it really is. It really is. I mean, to be honest with you, the competitive part of you makes you love it, but it's really not fun. I mean,
right.
it
Yep.
takes the fun out of it. You with staying up and stress and trying to plan everything. It really can get stressful, you know. And there's a lot of guys that have done a whole lot more tournaments than I have, but you know, I feel like most of them will agree with what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of those kind of blunt truths that's hard to kind of put out there is, you know, people say, oh, you know, I love doing tournaments. Well, I mean, if you've done many of them, like I say, the competitive part, you know, showing up at check-in afterwards is a lot of fun, but the actual 3:00 in the morning and running on your 8th cup of coffee and trying to race against the clock. And, you know, I run a GPS mapping program, you know, on a tablet in my truck, trying to navigate, playing the next stand while I'm getting out at the previous one. And yeah.
Right.
So do you usually hunt with the same people? Like, tell me about, you know, having kind of the importance of having good hunting partners, kind of having some experience with them, knowing what they're going to do, you know, that type of thing.
Man, that's key. I mean, other than having good dirt, that's probably one of the main things. You have to have good partners that you work good with. I've been really fortunate. I've got several guys that I hunt, you know, different tournaments depending on what state with, and we just click. We hunt good together. We kind of know what each other's going to do, and that means a lot because when there's confusion, nothing goes right. So you really have to get along good with those guys, man. I do have the same group. I hunt the Eastern with Curtis French. Me and him grew up together hunting around here forever. Fished our whole lives. And Chris Smith out of Georgia. Chris is a super good dude. I've hunted with Chris for several years now, and he's just one of those guys, man. He does tons of homework. Him and Ryan Higgins both, they really played a big role this year in the Eastern with doing the homework on the coyotes, you know. And I'm 9 hours away from where we hunted, and I went down several times, but it's really hard to do what he done every evening when he got off work, you know.
Right.
So Stephen Davis and Doug Myers hunted the Carolina Classic with those guys. Same deal, man. We just click. We run really well together, and 2.5 nights at that Classic, man. That's a marathon. I'm telling you, to wear on you. And
now, did you do day hunting too, or did you just?
Yeah, during the Eastern, we made a few day stands. We killed one coyote. The first day, actually the second day. But we had a really strong night. You know, we killed, I believe it was 18 the first night. So we felt pretty confident we didn't have to make many day stands. But if it's slow, you know, we always pound the daytime just to get it 2 or 3 extra if you can, because those are bonuses.
Sure.
But we had good nights, so we didn't have to. We got to sleep a little bit during the day.
Right. So, kind of touching on having your partner set up. I mean, what things? So I hunt by myself a lot. I do have like 2 people that I hunt with on a regular basis, and like you said, we just kind of mesh. But some things that people might want to consider, like for the planning, like synchronized shooting when you do your countdown, when you're going to shoot, kind of moving around each other. Can you kind of explain how you? I mean, obviously, somebody that like you guys that have hunted together, it just kind of works. But can you walk people through stuff, what they need to, you know, communication on the stand, moving when you're set up? You know, does the same person call all the time? Like, can you kind of run through what somebody needs to be on the same page is their partner?
Yeah, we just talk about it. Like I said, we practice in the off season with, pig hunts or coyote hunts, but everybody's different. Everybody likes different stuff. The countdown, I've got a couple guys you can do the countdown with. It works. We usually pick, if there's 3 of us hunting, there's a pair comes in, 2 of you shoot. If somebody's having a bad night and it happens, you may say, okay, you 2 shoot and I'll pick up the runners, or
Sure.
or vice versa. I don't really like the countdown as good. I run a Timney or a Trigger Tech 2-stage, and I just as soon pull it out of mine to the second stage, and let my buddy shoot on them. And I've been pretty successful with that.
Okay.
It's really just personal preference, whatever you all like and whatever y'all do best together.
Right. Well, neat. Yeah, because I always feel like whoever's counting down, that person kind of gets screwed a little bit.
Right.
Versus who's listening and can control their breathing and, that type of thing. So,
right.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
As far as the call goes, we switch off, who's running the call. I think during the Eastern and the Classic both, me and Chris switched off during the Eastern, about probably 50-50. And during the Classic, man, Steven, he was a trooper. He run the call, I think, all but maybe 4 stands. I may have run 4 stands other than just running diaphragms. So it's just personal preference, A lot of times those guys are more familiar with their ground, which they live there. So, let them run their thing. And if it's not working, we'll switch out and let somebody else run it.
Cool. So let's talk about gear a little bit. I know gear is somewhat proportionate to budget, but kind of the importance of having good gear runs through kind of your setup as far as gun, tripod, what you use as far as scanner and scope, your call, kind of runs through your gear and some options on maybe people that can't use the higher end gear, what's important, if a scanner is more important than your scope, or kind of run us through your gear and what you can help people with on that.
Yeah, man. My tripod setup right now, I'm running a RS TVC 33 legs, a BH55 ball head, and everything I've run, this is the best in my opinion that you can possibly run. The Fizal 3372 legs are great too for the money, probably the best bang for the buck. That BH55 is solid. I mean, it's whether you're shooting runners or a sitting coyote at 400 yards, it's solid. I don't know how you can go wrong with that. And your gun's only as accurate as what's holding it. I see a lot of guys have a $3,000 rifle and a $25 Amazon set of legs, and it's
right.
Just like, golly. But that's what I run on tripods. My rifle, I'm running a DNA 243 22-inch proof research barrel, 1 in 10 twist. Super good gun. I've not had a bit of trouble out of it. It's a tack driver. It shoots well. Probably gonna have Sean build me a 20-inch this summer, just for a little bit shorter with the suppressor. And call wise, I'm still running a CS24C from Tory MFK edition. Hadn't had any trouble with it. Probably will switch to an X24 this summer also, but haven't received it yet. As far as thermal wise, I'm running a Mark 360 from Cameron, and in my opinion, that's the best scope on the market. The Halo gets a lot of love. A lot of people are liking it right now. I just like the turrets on the 60. It seems like it's a little bit easier, quicker to zoom in and out. And I'm running a Reap and a Patrol for my scanners. I switch back and forth depending on the terrain and magnification on them.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah, it's hard to compete with the Trijicon. I run an Envision Halo, and I know some guys that run Trijicon have kind of look through it and say, "Man, that looks pretty close," and the price tag's
oh yeah,
little bit different. So they're
yeah,
both. I think they're both kind of neck and neck there. And Envision's really starting to get some traction in the. They're really starting to get some traction in the market for being for being newer into it.
for sure, man. They hit a home run with the Halo, in my opinion. That's a great optic.
Absolutely. So if somebody, I know a lot of people scan with their gun. Some people scan with a separate scanner. What's your feelings on if you can only afford one good thermal, would you scan with your rifle, or would you buy a good scanner and then have something, that doesn't have the range on your gun? Does that make sense? I guess if you had to pick,
It does.
if you had to pick one or the other, I know everybody has a personal preference. I have a preference of what I would suggest, but that's because I scan with my gun. Now I've got a really good scanner
Right.
too, and
Right.
it stays in the truck. Like I just don't get the knack of you. I just don't have a preference of using it. But what's your preference on because when I get people asking about thermals, they'll say, well, man, I can get one good one, but budget wise, I just can't spring for two high end thermals. So what do you suggest there?
You can look at it two ways. Me personally, I would rather have a good scope. On the other hand, you spend 75-80% of your time looking through your scanner. You just want to catch movement, go to your scope.
Right.
But do you want to look through? You want to look through a mediocre scanner all night, or scan through a good scope? It's just, you can go either way, man. You can't hit what you can't see.
Right. Yep.
So if you have a cheap scope, there's that point. But then again, you're going to be looking through a scanner half the night or scanning with it. So it can go either way. I would probably rather have a good scope.
Yeah.
If I could only afford one.
I agree. I'm the same way. I just didn't want to steer. I didn't want to steer the conversation that way before you answered. But yeah. Just last night I was out. I have the Helion 2 XP50 for a scanner. And of course I run a Halo LR on my gun. And I had a buddy out with me that does a lot of trapping. And he was on the scanner, and at about 350 yards, I literally just saw a pair of ears over the rise. And I was trying to tell Dave, I said, there's one poking his head over. And with 2.5 times base magnification, he wasn't able to see it really well with the scanner. He thought it was a rabbit, or, it's just hard to make out.
Right.
And then the ears kind of turned into the top of a head. As I kept calling, the head poked up. And eventually I got him to come out, and, he sat down, and he wouldn't commit to the call, but he sat down and poked a hole in him. And it was kind of funny. He had a snare mark on his leg, and my buddy traps about 3/4 of a mile away. And I'm pretty sure it's one that escaped his trap. And then I got it last night with him. So we decided to split it. But, that was a case of, he wouldn't have, it's a good scanner, but he wouldn't have seen it, or I wouldn't have seen it with just the scanner. But the fact I was using a higher end optic on my gun, I was literally able to see a pair of ears over the rise and work that in, and both of us would have totally missed it with a scanner. So, but I see both sides of it. I was just curious what your feelings were on it.
Yeah, that's me. That's kind of where I'm at on it. I would rather have a good scope, like you said.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem scanning with my scope. A lot of times I take people that don't have them, like you, give them my scanner or whatever, and I scan with my gun a lot. A lot of people don't like it, but it don't seem to bother me that bad.
Yeah. I think as long as you're in open area, so everybody has their preferences. I know we're down south, like where Torrey is and stuff, it can be a little bit tighter areas. And my personal preference is I like a big, wide open field where I have to call them out. Yeah. And there's enough of a buffer that when I'm scanning with my gun, if I scan over an area and I don't come back to that area for 20, 30 seconds, they've still had plenty of ground to cover, and I'm not going to miss something. So I think
Right.
the guys that have room, I think the only limitation with the gun is you can only scan so fast.
Yeah, that's true.
Or you're going to get dizzy running in a circle.
Yeah.
So
Right.
with the scanner, I know, and I scan different based on the sound. You probably do too. If I'm running a really aggressive sound, you got to move fast.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you're running in distress, you can, run a little slower. So, and that kind of brings up another point of knowing your equipment, practicing with your equipment, and just knowing the capabilities and limitations of it. Can you kind of touch on that? How much, as much as you hunt, do you ever practice with your stuff? I mean, do you do range time and checking zeros, or like as far as
we
your equipment?
We shoot quite a bit. I've got a range at my house. I can shoot right at 400 yards. So we practice out to 400 quite a bit. And, you shoot coyote size still at 400, it makes those 200-yard shots pretty much chip shots. So it makes a big difference to know, where your gun's shooting, how high you need to hold, what your reticle is at that zoom, at that distance.
Yep.
It makes a big difference, knowing what you can do and what your gun can do, and feeling confident, because you don't want to be the guy during a tournament and they say you want to take the shot, miss the shots. You don't you don't want that guy.
Yeah, and I assume you guys like chrono your stuff and then check your dope and everything. Have you noticed much difference in what an app says your dope will be on paper or on a screen versus what it shoots on paper?
Yeah, on daytime stuff, on the thermal stuff, I have never found anything to be accurate as far as any of your crosshairs, being able to dope them in any way.
All right.
I've talked about it with several guys, and it's pretty much one of those things. You just kind of got to shoot your crosshair at that distance and maybe go measure your target and see what you're dropping.
Right.
It's kind of, the thermal's kind of tough in my opinion, as far as any dope goes, unless you're running a high on clip on or something,
Yeah. I wonder why they haven't come out with a reticle that you can use for that.
That would be a good question for Cameron. I know he's talked to several people about that. And I don't really know. I don't know if it has to do with the way the thermal magnifies. I don't really know.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, when we get, we've got him coming up for an episode, and so we'll get into that when we get to his episode. So back to the tournaments in your land. Kind of walk us through setting up, how you set up for stands, what you look for in land, what makes a certain spot appeal to you more than others, and when you have a spot, walk us through kind of what you're considering in setup.
We want somewhere that's easy to get in. You're not going to have to walk real far from the truck, and you want places close together. You want to be able to get in and get out and get to the next spot as soon as possible. Because the time you're in the truck, that's time wasted.
Right.
We try to get big boundaries of land, plan out your stands. We run through a couple days before the Eastern. We pretty much had plan A, B, and C, depending on what the wind was, on where we was going to start, what we was going to do. And we made a couple mock runs just 2 or 3 nights before, okay, we're going to park here. We're going to set up here. We're going to call here.
Okay.
Just so when you get there, you're not scratching your head thinking, okay, where do you want to set up? Well, it don't matter. Well, I want to go here. And then you're arguing over it. We do that 2 or 3 days before and get that out of the way. So,
right. So when you did your mock run, you did that during daytime though, so you could see the grade and all that kind of stuff.
We did, and that plays a big role too. You know, the rolling draws and stuff you get there, you think you can see, and then bam, a coyote pops up 30 yards. You're like, how'd he get there? Well, there's a draw you didn't know was there. So yeah, it pays to go and know where you're hunting for sure.
And then you use a mapping program, or what kind of technology do you use to keep track of all this?
We all run Onyx maps.
Okay, cool.
Super handy. Handy.
Yep. And a lot seems like a lot you can do with that and document with it. So you pretty much have your your plan and a schedule and everything before the tournament even starts.
Right.
Okay. What about sounds? How do you determine what you're going to use at that time?
You know, it really just depends on that time of year, what the coyotes are doing in their life schedule. And even then, you have to go out and find it. It's kind of like bass fishing, you know. The guys that figure out what the bass are biting on first usually ends up winning the damn tournament. So you've got to throw different stuff to figure out what they're liking and what they're coming to. And once you figure that out, just roll with it till it don't work anymore and then try something else.
So the areas you're hunting, you're obviously not hunting it before the tournament, but do you have, I guess my question is, do you do anything to get an idea of what sounds are working leading up to the tournament in a similar area?
We hunt, you know, ground in the same county that may not be the tournament loop. You know, it may be 20 minutes out of the way. And like I said, during our mock runs, we went down a couple days early this year and hunted, you know, not what we was hunting during the tournament, but other stuff, just to get a feel for what was working and what they was coming to. So,
and then once you find that sound, you pretty much feel that it's good for the geographic area you're running. So you think sounds are more seasonal? They don't change with, you know, say you've got something 4 or 5 counties across, that your sounds aren't going to change from, you know, like where I'm at. I hunt in Ohio and Indiana, so you pretty much feel that whatever sounds are working in Dayton, Ohio, if I drive an hour and a half west of here, it's going to be a similar, or I could at least try a similar sound with some success.
I would say the scenarios more so than the sounds. You know, sounds, yes, but the scenario you're going to play, you know, whether that's rabbit distress, pup distress, fight sounds, or, you know, vocals, pup distress, fight sounds, you know, however you do it, usually if it's working, it's working. If it's not, it's not.
So do you run the same set? I mean, do you have a sequence?
A lot, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We, I mean, we pretty much run, other than diaphragms, 4 sounds during the Eastern. We run 4 sounds. It's what put the pile in the truck.
Okay. In the same sequence. You know, I'm not asking what specific sounds, just it's the same sequence each time.
Yep.
Neat. Okay.
You know, you may have a scenario that's different. You know, you may pull up and walk out and have one mousing. Well, of course, you're not going to just, you know, go to throwing something crazy that you played on the last stand. But for the most part, yeah, the same sequence, same sounds. As long as it's working, go with it.
Yep. And that kind of goes back to your time, right? Because is that the way you hunt? If you're not hunting a tournament, are you still hunting that same way?
No, not really.
Okay.
You know, if we're not tournament hunting, you know, we may spend 30 minutes on stand, and it may just be learning what they're doing or watching what they're doing, you know, how they're reacting. That's one thing I tell guys with thermal, guys that are buying thermal. I said, you're getting ready to learn a lot, because you get to see how the coyote reacts when you would never know it. You would never know they're there. The light guys, especially, you pick up thermal and you're like, damn, I didn't see him out there. I didn't know how he was responding to this. So it's just a learning. It's just learning. Every time you go, you learn something.
Well, that's the cool thing, like you said, about the thermal. It gives you the opportunity to see what their reactions are. I think I was telling people in a previous episode that I've got a turf farm that is full of fox. Now, I understand fox, act completely different than coyotes, but there's times that, and the farmer really isn't that concerned with, they're not hurting anything out there. So there's times that I'll go out there to that sod field and I'll call and I'll just play with the fox for 45 minutes and see what I do that causes them to bust me. And I've learned more from playing with those fox about coyotes. I mean, just little things like I used to not run an eyepiece on my thermal. I didn't like it. It caused it to fog up, Well, I was having stuff bust me, at a certain distance. Come to find out, I'm sure it's because they were seeing the reflection on my face. So I went
So
I went to an eyepiece, and it has changed things drastically. And I know all these little things don't make that drastic of a change, but when you start stacking them up on top of each other, I have electrical tape over my zipper tabs on my pants so they don't hit my tripod and make a little bit of noise. That one little thing doesn't make much of a difference. But the tape over my zipper tabs plus the eyepiece plus all those things you add up, I think give me an edge over maybe the people that don't do that. But that's what I think, that thermal, there's so much to learn from it because you can watch. I've made every mistake there is in calling. Like there's so many times I've got a coyote coming in, he's committed to the call, and all I would have to do is wait, and my dumbass throws another sound on, and all of a sudden he's headed the other way.
Right.
And I leave that stand. I'm the one that's educated, and I know not to make that mistake again. So yeah, that kind of goes back to your. You're right. That's a good statement of when you get a thermal, you're in for an education because it allows you to see all the mistakes you make.
Yeah, it helps, man. I mean, if you learn something on every stand, and the stands the coyote runs in 30 seconds and you kill him, that's the ones you don't learn anything on.
Right.
Yeah. Like you said, the ones that burn you, that's the ones that teach you the lesson. So,
yeah. So, and that kind of goes to my next point of if you can call in all the coyotes you want, but if you're not capable of putting a hole in them, it doesn't do a whole lot of good, right?
And that's exactly right. That kind of goes back to the good gear and the practice and your partners and knowing what you're going to do, because you can call in 40 a night, but if you don't kill them, you might as well not even win, Right. So I think going back, I should have thought about this before. I think we called in. We killed 24 coyotes in the eastern. We shot 27. We brought 24 and shot 27, I believe. I think we lost 3 that weekend. And the classic, we killed 30, and I think we let maybe 2 go all weekend. So we was pretty spot on those 2 weekends, and that's what it takes, man. I mean, you let that one get away, and that's the difference in winning and losing,
Right. Yeah. So when you lost them, couldn't find them, or like spun them and they run off?
We lost one in the high weeds, and we called a pair in. Curtis shot him with a 6 Creed. He hit the ground. His mate run over there. I shot him with a 243. He hit the ground. Curtis went to get the drag. Chris was changing his batteries, and I went to get the truck. We got back, and the coyote was gone. And that just don't happen with a 6 Creed and a 243.
Right. Yep.
So I told him right then, I said, guys, it's not meant to be. It's not meant for us to win this damn tournament. And luckily it worked. But
yeah, that's a hard hit though to lose 2 in the same stand.
Yeah. And the other one we lost in the high grass, that goes back to your time. Do you spend 30,
Right.
45 minutes looking for this coyote that you know's dead, or do you go make 2 more sets?
Right.
And,
Yeah.
you know,
And how much is the
it's,
coyote
it's
worth? Not in obviously money, but how much is it worth in time? Like,
sure.
could
Yeah.
so I guess the amount of time it's going to take you to get another coyote, that's the time minus a couple minutes what you'd want to spend looking for the previous one, right? I mean, at
Right.
some point
Yeah.
you gotta cut anchor and just move on.
Yep. Yep. That's right.
Yeah. So, kind of in closing and wrapping up here, what kind of overall would you tell? Obviously, you've got this down pat. You're very successful at tournaments and overall successful in predator hunting. What would you tell somebody that has not competed in a tournament before, and they want to get in and they want to start tournament hunting? As far as maybe, can you give some tips on what to do? Maybe what type of tournament? I know I'd have kind of some suggestions on what type of tournament to try first. Some are a little more structured and better than others. And I know if you pick the
Definitely.
wrong tournament, I don't know if I'd suggest starting with something like the Eastern, but to use that as an example, Jason puts a ton of work in that tournament. If you go back and listen to the interview I did with Jason, we touch on it a little bit. There's a ton of work in that. It's really backed by sponsors. It's definitely worth your time. Yep. And unfortunately, anything with competition, there's going to be people trying to cheat. That's just,
Right.
a nature of the beast. And some tournaments are able to make it much more fair than others. Can you kind of touch on what kind of tournament to pick? I guess what I'm getting at is pick one you're not going to get discouraged at, and you're not going to show up with, somebody that bent the rules and it just kind of kicks your pride. What would you suggest to somebody that wants to get into it and get started?
The Eastern's second to none, in my opinion. I mean, Jason him and JT do a phenomenal job. It's probably as fair and well run as anything. And it don't matter if you kill 2 or 20, you're getting a paycheck and your name's going for some cool prizes. So I would highly suggest one of those, not only hunting it and the prizes, but just getting to talk to some of the best in the United States are there,
Absolutely.
It's a great time. The most guys start out with like the tournament or the parking lot tournaments, which that's what a lot have.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a lot of, like you said, whatever goes in them. It's a good way to get your foot in the door, but I think the fairest is probably the bigger ones, like the Classic or like Jason's. And, most guys at that level, to me, wouldn't risk cheating. I mean, if you risk cheating at the Eastern, you'd be crazy because your name is done if you got caught, Right. So and those guys probably go there and talk to several people and would learn more by standing around talking and just watching than probably some of the little tournaments.
Absolutely. And for people that don't understand or don't know, what Colt's talking about with the Eastern that kind of keeps things honest is this year they implemented an app that you register your kills through the app. You take a short video of the dog, you'd shake it to show that it's limp, that it's fresh. It geotags where you're at to make sure you're within the boundaries, all that type of thing. So that stuff really helps. And then, Colt, can you kind of explain what you said? Everybody gets paid. So obviously that applies to a bounty hunt. Can you kind of explain how a bounty works? And because not all tournaments are bounty hunts, right?
Yeah. Most of them, is winner take all or first or second place. Mm-hmm. Jason's got his set up where 100% of the entry fee money this year went to the bounty. And I think, don't hold me to it, but it was like $68 a coyote, I believe.
Yeah.
So every coyote that you brought in, was worth $68. So, you kill a handful of coyotes, it's going to pay your gas anyways just to come, not to mention the prizes, but most of the small tournaments don't have that. As a matter of fact, I don't know any of them that have that other than the Eastern.
Yeah.
But the bounty money's great for getting people. The guys that know they can't kill 20 coyotes in a weekend, it's still fun for them because they have stuff. They're going to get paid and have an opportunity to win stuff too.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's what I was trying to get at. If you can find one that has a bounty, like you said, the bounty is whatever they determine to use for the money for the bounty, whether it's the entry or, a sponsor donates it, it's that amount of money divided by the amount of coyotes killed, and that's what each one's worth. So if you can find, if you're looking at doing one, if you can find a tournament that has a bounty, even like you said, even if you drag in a couple, your gas money's covered.
Yeah, sure.
And those are usually ones that are a little more structured, I think, and a little more established as well.
Right. And even the big dog and small dog, they was $3,000 rifles this year. So you kill one big coyote, you had a option to win a $3,000 rifle for shooting one coyote.
Right. Absolutely. And I don't think there's any other tournaments, at least that I know of, that have the prizes the Eastern does. So, don't expect free rifles from your local parking lot tournament. That's definitely kind of, on a different level. But there's nothing wrong with the parking lot tournaments either, as long as it's, I think, as long as it's something that's gone on for a couple years and they've kind of figured out the quirks and it's somewhat fair. And there's everything in the spectrum out there. We've got a couple local tournaments around here that are very well put together, very well run. And we've got some that places do as a fundraiser, and man, it looks like a damn free for all. You can trap, use dogs, hit them with your car, whatever you want. And, kudos to them for raising money, or I guess anything's killing coyotes good, but I wouldn't suggest that for your first tournament because I think, I know first tournament I did, I was kind of nervous and I didn't want to be the guy that only showed up with 2 or 3 coyotes. And first tournament, I showed up with 2 or 3 coyotes, but I wasn't embarrassed. I happened to pick a decent tournament, and it was one of those things that I felt like I left there with a lot of knowledge and got to know some people, and it was a good experience. So I guess my point with it is just if your tips to try to help people have a good experience with their first tournament.
Yeah, that's the key too. I mean, nothing you do, you want to have a bad experience, and going in and getting beat by somebody cheating or something like that would definitely not be good. So, but they are fun. I mean, it's a great time. The Eastern is probably my favorite weekend out of the year, just because of getting to talk with everybody and meet guys that I'm friends with on Facebook that I don't get to see but once a year. So
absolutely,
it's a great time.
Yeah, and like this year, it was. It was held inside like an arena type thing, so you're not standing out in the freezing cold. And I think Jason said he's going to try to get the same venue next year. So it'll, it's a neat atmosphere just because it's in January and bad weather doesn't mean you're going to be standing outside freezing. Like it's a neat thing. So Cole, is there anything else, just to kind of wrap things up that you want to pass on to people looking at trying a tournament?
Man, not really. Just grab a couple buddies and go try it.
Get out there.
That's all I know to do.
Get out there and give it a shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably don't have real high expectations of your first one. I tell people, just go do it. I play in powerlifting a little bit, and I was the same way. I was so nervous to do my first meet, and my trainer told me, he's like, don't even worry about what you do. Just get the first one under your belt. Don't have any expectations, and try to be competitive on your second one. And on your second one, be a little more competitive on your third one. And that worked for me. I just showed up to my first meet, like nervous and shaken, and now I feel more experienced for it. So it's kind of the same thing with tournaments. Just get out there and try one. Don't have any expectations except to have fun. And I think it'll get you towards being a little competitive with the more you try.
Sure. Yeah, that's what it's all about, man. Getting out with your buddies and having fun.
Absolutely. All right, buddy. Well, Colt, I really appreciate it. For the people that want to follow your stuff, they can follow you on Facebook. There's Thermal Optics, I know, post a lot of your stuff and MFK, so follow those. You got any other stuff on social media that you post stuff on?
No, just Facebook, Instagram, and mfkgamecalls.com, thermalopticsplus.com, and DNA Rifle Systems, man.
Great. One quick thing on MFK. This is being recorded middle of April. They just released some really good videos on coyote behavior. Like right now it's denning season. They released a cool video on denning and all that. So anybody that hasn't gone to YouTube and followed the MFK page, I would highly suggest doing it. Obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you're trying to collect the information you need to be more successful. I'm telling you, if you go to MFK and follow their YouTube page and watch those videos that they're putting out, it's going to be just as valuable. That they've put a lot of time in over a long window of collecting the video and the data that's in those. And I'm just saying, for personal experience, we're not sponsored by MFK, or I have no affiliation to them other than being friends with the guys, but that information is gold. And so I highly suggest going over there and following their YouTube page. But Colt, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Tori has, it's phenomenal what he's done, and what the stuff he's got coming out in the next couple weeks, months is going to help tremendously. So I would highly suggest checking them out.
Absolutely. Well, Colt, I really appreciate it, buddy. We're running out of time here. We're going to wrap it up, but I appreciate your time, all your information, and I'm sure that people that are going to try some tournaments, you've helped them out immensely.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thanks a bunch.